Hi, my name is Isabelle McNeill and I'm the chair and co-founder of the Cambridge Film Trust, a charity which runs the Cambridge Film Festival, among other activities and events. I'm here to give a very short introduction to Mathieu Kassavitz's film La Haine, which is screening as part of our Rewind season, looking back at some of the amazing films the festival has shown over the years. I think it's no exaggeration to say that La Haine is an iconic film. On its release in 1995, it attracted nearly 2 million spectators in France, making it one of the most popular films of the year. Not bad for a young, relatively unknown filmmaker who was only showing his second feature film. The film also won the coveted Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival for Best Director, and it's never really left the public consciousness since that time. It's been attacked both at the time and over the years, both for being an anti-police film and for its representations of marginalised youth. It's a perennially controversial film that touches sensitive nerves in French culture. It is also cinematographically beautiful and innovative, with an eye for transnational and especially American culture that nevertheless remains rooted in a French context. The film is set in what has become known as the banlieue. Really, banlieue just means the suburbs or anywhere beyond city limits. In fact, it encompasses a diverse range of peripheral towns and locations around big French cities. But over the years, this term banlieue has come to refer to specific, highly stigmatised, working-class and multi-ethnic areas, often presented in media discourse as problem areas, full of angry, unemployed and marginalised youth. It has to be said that La Haine has contributed to this image with its tale of three young men caught up in various forms of delinquency. The French scholar Mame Fatou Niang, who has written an authoritative analysis of media representations of the banlieue, has shown how La Haine has come to be treated almost as a documentary presenting social facts, rather than the fiction film it actually is. Kassavitz, however, set out explicitly to offer a different perspective on banlieue youth, as well as exposing the injustice of police brutality. By choosing to shoot in La Noë, an estate in the northwest suburbs of Paris, Kassavitz avoided the most bleak and imposing tower blocks that are commonly seen in media imagery of the banlieue, in favour of social housing on a more human scale. It's also shot in slick black and white. Of course, we associate this now more with art house film than reportage. And it plays with the filmic medium, using artful framing, intertextual allusions, and some surreal moments. And if you haven't seen it, you should look out for the cow. By doing this, Kassavitz resisted a more gritty or ethnographic aesthetic associated with the news and previous banlieue-set films, as though he was asking why marginalised housing estates couldn't be the focus of a film that was stylish and cool. Despite its overt artifice, however, it's understandable that it's become associated with the reality of social fracture. Inspired by a real instance of racist police brutality, the film's credit sequence is a montage of real news footage of demonstrations and riots in the Parisian banlieue. This frames the film with a denouncement of the racial hatred embedded in police and government approaches to banlieue residents, with Bob Marley and the Wailers' reggae anthem Burning and Looting evoking a transnational context and a history of social critique through art. What La Haine doesn't do very overtly is highlight the context of France's colonial history, an aspect that is often bracketed out from discussions of the so-called banlieue in the French media. The trio at the heart of the film, Jewish Vinz, Arab Saïd and Black Hubert, are not an unrealistic group of banlieue mates, but apart from a brief glimpse of Vince's white privilege in an encounter with the police, racial politics are muted in favour of a focus on spatial and class segregation from the wealthy centre of Paris. In fact, it's worth bearing in mind that the history of these neighbourhoods and their tower blocks of cheap social housing is bound up with French colonial history, since the blocks, which were first constructed in the 50s and 60s, ended up taking over from the appalling shanty towns that initially housed migrant workers from the colonies, who were brought over as cheap labour in the aftermath of the Second World War. The enduring legacy of colonialism and French anxieties about national identity both feed into and are shaped by mass media representations of the banlieue. But one sequence of the film in particular, which I think really does respond to these cultural and social fractures in a particularly brilliant way, is the sequence in which the DJ Cut Killer mixes a virtuosic set standing by a high window. and the camera, using an early form of drone, follows the sound out into the airwaves over the estate. The sequence actually starts in Hubert's bedroom as he listens to Isaac Hayes, who was a noted black rights activist. This expands Cut Killer's hybrid mixture of Edith Piaf's chanson française, along with both French and American rap, into a truly transnational fusion. Through the figure of a DJ born in Morocco, multicultural potentialities are shown that transcend the neocolonial segregation of the banlieue space. As you'll see, the whole film is framed by an image of an inevitable fall, but as the camera and the hybrid sounds float out over the rooftops in this scene, the film offers music and film itself as ways of taking flight. Happy watching.